Hello and welcome to the one, the only Gaming Booth Podcast, Episode 6, a podcast that's certainly not a rewritten version of someone else's work. As always, I'm Mitch. Joining me once again is the official Captain Falcon, Jordan.
Falcon Punch!
Awesome. And we're also joined by Russell, the official Ice Climber.
Hulk Smash!
Good enough, the ice climbers get pretty pissed these days because they're always left out. With this podcast, we started each and every episode by taking a deep dive into a realm of infinite possibilities, and sometimes nightmares. A place we call the Multiverse. This week, we're visiting Earth 363, a place where you can only sneak in a cardboard box, where you physically can't be seen, and scientists never worked it out. So goods are obviously transported in glass boxes. It's the only way that makes sense. And the Earth occasionally gets consumed by darkness for about a century. So,
Just every now and then?
Just every now and then. Puts another perspective on the Dark Ages, For this week's opportunity, I will call it, you must remake a classic game that will appeal to this world. A world of invisible and sometimes visible cardboard boxes and darkness. And the winner of this game is the one that sells the most and gets a better score on Metacritic. But before we got here, I cheated and brought Nintendo Labo, which, I wasn't really thinking. I thought, they would understand cardboard, but, they can't see it. So they didn't understand it. So, I'm already out. So it's up to you guys who goes first and tries to win whatever it is you win.
It needs to be retro and something to do with the dark, is that right?
No, it just needs to be a classic game that you think will appeal to people of this world. Doesn't matter what kind of light situation there is in the game, as long as you think it will appeal to them.
I mean, it's kind of straightforward answer, really. It's if this is a world full of boxes, there's only one game with the box as the MVP of the entire experience, and that's Metal Gear Solid. So Metal Gear Solid will be the game I'm bringing to this world to show them just how awesome a box can be and every possible use you can imagine for it. A lot of sneaking, though. A lot of sneaking.
There's only one slight problem with that, though, is if they can't see a box, how can they see a box in a game? So when he's just sneaking like normal.
Well, they just can't see it. It's just cardboard boxes are straight up invisible. So, maybe in the game they're visible. I think they are. So you might show them something that will change this world forever, Russell. Are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah. I definitely conceptualize them seeing the box and going, what is this thing? And what kind of power does it hold for this universe?
Wonderful. Jordan, what are you bringing? What are you remaking?
So my game has nothing to do with boxes. I'll just go with the classic Assassin's Creed.
And why do you think they'll like Assassin's Creed?
Because you can be stealthy without a box without being seen.
That's a good point. All right, so apparently that's a classic game now. I'll allow this. So because of how fundamental these boxes are to them, people lost their mind with Metal Gear Solid, so much so that they never released it because it got banned because the government was so scared of what it could do.
This was proof of aliens in our world. That's how significant this was.
Yeah, that's how much it freaked them out. And so Assassin's Creed, they liked Assassins, it brought them back to the memory of the Darkness Wars, which was a dark time but was really cool for the kids of today. So Jordan wins. And because Jordan wins...
Sorry, did I hear you correctly? Am I hearing this right?
Yeah, you won.
I didn't die or anything?
You won. And because you won, you get to leave. The loser is trapped here until we rescue him eventually, so...
Well, I said, I have the concept of a box now, which apparently is unknown to this world, so I shall be building a box fort in my spare time here.
That no one can see, or they can see.
I shall build the box empire and rule this universe.
But before we move on, I need to rate this on Multiverse Advisor as always. For a scale of 1 to 10, I want to know what you guys think.
I'm going to go for 7, just for the fact that I didn't die, and boxes are fun, no matter what age you are.
I'm going to go for 5 out of 5 boxes.
5 out of 5 boxes. Is that a 10? Because we're using a 10-point score.
It's translated to a 6.759, I believe, on the 10-point scale.
So this multiverse is an average of 6.8795. It's on a 7.8. There is not too much water here, but it's a healthy 6.8. So, it's right in the middle. We've got an 8 and we've got a 1, I think. And so, yeah.
Yeah, 1.
We'll be back in a moment to talk about something that's real and not multiverses. Welcome back to the Gaming Booth podcast. We've had a lot of news this week, so we're going to open with a bit of Red Dead Redemption 2 because we've finally seen gameplay. To talk about this trailer, I wanted to talk about the most interesting parts, but of course, before we get there, I want to ask the question about, are we interested in Red Dead Redemption 2 and the setting of the Wild West?
To be honest, it looks like what a sequel should be, expanding on the original and making it better, unlike another game like Destiny 2. Open world is actually a thing in this game as well, compared to the Destiny series. I don't know why I'm comparing it to the Destiny series, but maybe I just have a grudge on it.
There isn't much comparison. You're better off comparing the GTA, admittedly, but...
That is true. Will I buy it, though? Probably not.
What did Red Dead Redemption ever do to you?
It's not the game's fault, it's my own preference. When it comes to Westerns, I just have no interest in them.
But doesn't the world, like, make it excite you with just, like, all the visuals they're showing?
There's a moose!
Yes, but Westerns has been done to death. That I know how it's going to start, I know how it's going to be in the middle, and I know how it's going to end.
Wonderful. So, Jordan, not obviously not that excited, and it's sort of...
I mean, it looks great, but I ain't buying it.
So it sort of reminds me of, like, my opinions and the Fallout series. Like, I can't get into that because of the theme. Like, I guess it makes sense for Westerns, but, you know, for the most part, how many Western games can you name? Because I can name about 4.
I don't even know off the top of my head if I can name 4.
I did a quick wiki look earlier, and I could only see about 6.
So in the whole thing of Western games, I think Western games haven't been done. Western movies, yeah. There's so many Western movies, but I don't think that's the case for games. But anyway, to move from that tangent of... I want to talk about, like, what we saw in this trailer. Not specifics, more like what things mean, or like, I want to talk about detail. Like, we saw in The Last of Us Part 2 how detailed that game is, and this game looks like it's also showing off how detailed games can be, because games, graphically, like, they're all good if they're AAA with a big budget. So, do we think that's what next gen will be about? Like, just how detailed the worlds could be in terms of animations and stuff in it?
One word that comes to mind is immersion. Like, that's really what, like, the next gen is about, is immersing you into this world and just making it feel real. And the way to do that is through smart, intellectual AI that feel like real people you're talking to and, like, interact with you. Like, the one they show off with the horse, and it's like, nice horse, or whatever it was.
That's a nice
like,
horse.
You know, it's like, it's that interaction of characters that normally you just walk by an NPC. Like, Ubisoft games are classic for this, where it's like, you just see, like, the same character again and again, reused everywhere you go, and they have, like, generic things to say that, you know, they've just been programmed in there. It seems like, by it being the West, and it being probably a less expansive world, like, they're not going to be, you know, you're not a central hub city with hundreds of thousands of people in that area. It's like, no, you're probably exploring a lot of the wilderness by yourself. Yeah, and when you encounter someone, just for them interacting with you feels exciting, even though they're not an online player, unless that is a surprise they're going to drop down the line, and that it's like an open hub world, whereas, like, there are people online.
We don't know anything about multiplayer yet, but we do know this game has camps. You can go camping with your buddies, so, which leads to what Jordan was saying about the interactions between people.
So now, every time that you got to run from somewhere with your gang, you set up a new camp in that area. So you're building relationships with all your camp buddies, even your horse, because horses matter.
Yeah, like, you've got heaps of games with horses, and it upsets me that you couldn't actually build your relationship with Roach in Witcher 3, other than, come on, Roach. It's just like, you know, we needed that, and
the occasional glitch of Roach getting stuck on a house or something.
Roach is somewhere he shouldn't be. But it's like, that whole interactions thing for Rockstar is something new for their big open world series, because for the most part, Grand Theft Auto, you can't really pick what you're saying to, like, so you're Michael, you couldn't talk to Trevor or whatever on your own and pick the dialogue. So this is kind of, it's cool to see them taking something from other games for once, rather than games just going like, Rockstar did that, let's do that.
I'm going to take a guess of what happens at the end of the game, though. All those gang members that you build up relationships with all these different camps and everything, they're all going to die. And it's going to give you motive to hunt down the final guy.
Good storytelling doesn't go by, like, a very specific angle. Like, I can imagine there'll be a lot of betraying, but I can also imagine a redemption in the title of the game.
2 redemptions, not just one. You have to. Do you think this is going to be the best Wild West game we've ever seen?
It's one of those things where it's like, GTA has just such mass appeal because of what it's set in. Where Red Dead Redemption, because of the Wild West, it has that uphill battle of people like Jordan, who immediately go, not for me. But then they go, yeah, but look at the detail, look at the immersion, look at the level of experience you're going to have in this game. as opposed to GTA, where we could just go, we'll give you thousands of really fast cars and all the kind of like gangster shit that you get in GTA, as opposed to this, where it's like they really need to sell you on like this. You're going to get involved in this world in a way that most games can't even get close to, and only big budgets normally can.
I can truly agree that the world looks like expansive and amazing for an open world.
This is gonna easily be the best Wild West game. It's like Rockstar really nailed Grand Theft Auto and making it like a gangster's paradise, and like you're all criminals and stuff. And this one, like they've nailed that in GTA, and they nailed it last time at Red Dead. So it only makes sense that they're gonna nail it now.
I said the best game I could think of in the Wild West before this was Red Dead 1, and if it doesn't top its previous entry, then they've failed, and Rockstar doesn't fail. They spend as much time as they possibly need to make the game as best as it can possibly be.
But yeah, Red Dead looks great. Like, it's good to finally see what it actually looks like being played, and God, that game looks beautiful. We're going to move on to something a bit more exciting, a bit more, because we're talking EVO, the biggest fighting game competition in the world, pretty sure. There's a lot of announcements here, and I think the big one, despite not really caring about the show, but the announcement is wicked, because you got Negan from The Walking Dead joining Tekken, which is interesting, because it's a character from a TV series, and he uses a weapon, which Tekken's melee, so...
The fact that it's Negan is interesting in so many ways.
Instead of like Richter or something.
Well, it's like he's probably the most violent character on that show. Like, to pick him as everyone to in Tekken, which is not a bloody series by any means. Like, Negan is a Mortal Kombat type character. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But Tekken, like Negan, and the TV version of him, like, is the voice actor from that show, a TV actor, like, going to be in it? And it's going to be him, visually. It's going to be that actor.
Yeah, it's going to be the actor.
The character. Like, how did this happen? Did, like, Bandai Namco approach AMC? Or did AMC approach them? Like, how? I assume it was Bandai Namco, but it's so weird. Like, what? How?
Did they hate the character so much that they wanted to put him in a strange universe to beat the crap out of him?
It's like his version of Damnation is just like, you have to fight the best fighters in Tekken.
Was it like a fan poll? Because I remember, like, Cloud, if I recall correctly, was like, they were taking fan polls for, like, who they wanted in Smash. I remember Cloud was, like, way up on that list, and then Cloud was in the game. So it's possible it was, like, that situation where people are like, Tekken, it's like, who do you want? It's like, Negan, yeah.
Yeah. In my mind, it's because The Walking Dead is so big that they have fans everywhere. So it's not hard to say that at Bandai Namco, there are some people who love The Walking Dead who are just like, we need this guy in our game, or like, is AMC a fan of Tekken? So either way, we don't know how it happened. Interesting. I'd love to know how these deals come about, because like that would be very fascinating. And to speak of another super popular show, because super popular show is a super popular fighting game called Dragon Ball FighterZ, which the final fight wasn't just the most watched game of EVO 2018. It was the highest viewer count ever for an EVO main event on Twitch.
Which I think speaks to two things. One, the overall strength of that game and how popular it is right now. Like, the final, it's like the amount of like interest people had, where it's like they start off with like Sonic Fox as like Cell, and he does his like power up, and you just hear the audience scream, and it's so loud with that intro. It's the overall popularity of that franchise, and the game is just so excellent. But it also, I think, speaks to the culture of today, where people are consuming content more than ever, you know, with like the Fortnite streams and all the rest of it. It's just, I think that's starting to become less niche, and that people are just like, no, I watch football and, you know, that kind of stuff. Why not watch video game players as well? And I think it's becoming more normal.
Yeah, I think it's because Twitch is so big now, and like it's a part we all expect. So as Twitch grows, so will the audience, and so it makes sense that EVO is going to get bigger and bigger, and these games keep it going. And you know, they announce a lot of stuff at these events, so like Cooler from Dragon Ball Z. The
DLC characters for the most part have been pretty good. He's much cooler than Base Goku and Base Vegeta, which was
he's
the last
a lot
DLC
cooler.
they added. Yeah, a lot cooler. I'm happy, but I'm still disappointed about there is very, very, very low lack of female representation from that series, where it's like, nah, we'll just do all the male characters. I'm like, I think you need to get some of the female characters in there. It's getting a bit ridiculous.
Another interesting thing that happened was that the Smash Bros. Melee event, Nintendo revealed that they're having a Nintendo Direct, and, you know, interesting, they've never really been too fond of, like, God, why are they still playing Melee? We've got the Wii U version. It's just like, it's still the most popular one, and, you know, it keeps growing, and it's still going to be big, and depends on what Super Smash Bros. Ultimate can do, because it's looking pretty damn fantastic, and that Nintendo Direct happened. We've seen it. It was great. The opening was awesome. What do we think of the opening with the Castlevania reveal and the untimely death of Mario's brother, because Mario died in the first time at E3. His brother's dead, so what do we think?
It would be funny if like the theme of each like one is always a CGI trailer with one of the main characters from these games die. It felt so Sakurai. This is how he does his trailers. Like, it's every single one. The Mega Man back in the day and the last game. Like, they're all this hype fest. You just build up like this. Oh man, it's who is it? It's like, is it Simon? It's definitely Castlevania. And it's like, yeah, well, Simon.
Yeah. Well, Simon and Richter Belmont. So you got 2 for 1. With Echo Fighters and that. Like, I'm loving these reveals, and they're so Sakurai, because, like, it reminds me of Hideo Kojima, who just, like, he loves messing with people.
Well, it's just the money. You just look and go, spending so much money on a trailer that won't have any impact in the game. Like, it's just separate. It's for advertisement, and that's it.
It's just cool that Nintendo agree with it, and, that was an awesome trailer. They showed off the whole Dracula. They showed Alucard, which you can't play as either of them, but they also showed a level, which was the Castlevania, which all looks so
Dracula's
good.
Castle.
Yeah, Dracula's Castle. It's got a name.
And when it comes to Dracula's a boss as well.
Unclear on the boss aspect. Where it's like,
Like
Dracula's a boss. How do you unlock him? Yeah. And then Monster Hunter later with the dragon thing.
Giant dragon.
Oh, he's a boss. He's a boss too. It's like, okay, what's his boss?
What do you mean boss? But in terms of bosses, we've got, at the end, they revealed a real funny troll that didn't last long, because King K. Rool from the Donkey Kong Country series got announced, and they did this kind of like fake out with King DDD, who he's a true legend, just messing with us like that. But they revealed him, they showed him in battle. It's just like, these characters are getting out of control in this game.
They told us ahead of time, like, you're not going to have a huge amount of new characters because of how many goddamn characters there already are in this game. They're definitely still surprising with who they're bringing in. Like, I think Simon Belmont, people suspected because Snake being back from Metal Gear franchise, Konami playing Bomberman. Like, it has that, okay, Simon Belmont makes sense, considering his connection to the franchise. Nintendo. And then King K. Rool has been heavily asked for, as has Dark Samus. So it's like, it's that double aspect of like, oh, you wanted this for ages, why not put it in the ultimate game? My hopes are it's like, because they're focusing on like boss mode, and they have that little montage at the start where they show like little excerpts of all the boss characters from all these franchises, that they will keep that going and keep adding bosses from characters they have in. My biggest hope is Dr. Robotnik from Sonic. I goddamn hope he's in there.
Yeah, so we've also got, no Sonic characters. We got Dark Samus and Chrom.
When I was watching the direct and then going through the comments, I did notice that people were saying that Shadow might be an Echo character of Sonic. So if you're after the Dr. Eggman as well, he might be an Echo character of a similar character in Smash Fighters, which is Bowser Jr.
If Eggman's in it, he's got to be a brand new character.
He'd have to be big, because he's far bigger than Bowser Jr. ever would be. So I don't think there's an Echo character he'll fit. I think he's a good fit for an assist character, which we're going to get to in a moment. But I don't think he's going to be a playable character. But which of these new characters / Echo Fighters are we most excited for play? Because I think it's an easy question for me and Russell. But
when it comes to me, when they are introducing new characters, I'm like, who are these? Oh, right, that's from something I haven't played.
I'd guess, Russell, what are you most excited for?
Admittedly, I'm guessing you're thinking I'm going to say Simon Belmont. I'm thinking.
I'm not.
Okay, well, it's not Simon. It's Richter Belmont that I'm the most excited to play. Brand new character, more likable. I prefer the design of Richter.
Less Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, the design was never as cool. I mean, I would have loved to play Alucard, but it just unfortunately is a assist trophy. But Richter is still cool. He looks cool, and I love like they're so playful with his abilities, where it's like you can spin the chain around or whatever.
I love it.
It's just cool. It's just all the aspects of things, and the stage is like it's so awesome as well. Like, not necessarily tied to the character, but the Castlevania stage looks really good. I wouldn't be surprised if Echo is a big focus for them.
I'd imagine later on that with extra DLC that they'll bring in more Echo Fighters.
Obviously.
I think they'll bring a lot of Echoes anyway. I think there's going to be maybe like 12 Echoes, maybe like 6 brand new characters. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the kind of
talk about something that's sort of disappointing is the assist characters, and not that they aren't cool, which they are, but they're showing off characters like Zero from Mega Man, Knuckles, Grey Fox, Bomberman, Alucard, and the one that breaks my heart is Shovel Knight. The dream was he'd be a playable character, but
fortunately, like, the indie representation is enough for Nintendo. They're like, no, it has to be a bigger title.
Not enough.
It's almost like they put in the assist trophies in to say, sorry, we didn't have time to make the actual character, but he's here somewhere. Enjoy.
Yeah, not good enough. Shovel Knight deserved it. So did Alucard because he's awesome. But it's just like a bit disappointing that there's all these characters like Russell. I don't know how you feel about Knuckles not being playable, which means he probably won't be a character for a while.
I really do want something else from Sonic. I hope if it is something, it's not Shadow. I really do. I really love the idea of a boss thing, like just the ability to face off against the biggest villain for every character. I'd love that idea. But Knuckles being a Sis trophy, I mean, he's been in the past. I think Shadow also was, if I recall. So it is cool he's there, but I said it's always like a little bit of like, I wish it wasn't the Sis trophy. I wish you could play.
Yeah, the others like Bomberman, he'd be a good fit too. But it's just
I know he would be a good fit.
Come on, Nintendo. I'm still excited. We haven't seen anything with story mode yet, though. We've seen like cinematics and stuff. They kind of seem like they are, but
Well, they did show in the direct. They showed the title screen, like the menu screen, and they had this big green thing saying, "Sorry, we can't talk about this yet."
it's like you're full of shit. It's story mode. We know it. They reveal classic mode, and
I wonder how ambitious it is, though. That's the thing. It's like, are we just expecting like Subspace Emissary, or are they going to do like a full like RPG like platforming game or something where it's like
Russell,
you go to bosses with the characters?
Oh, I highly doubt that.
Don't make me too excited because that's just like, oh my god, if they did that, that'd be the best game ever. But like,
It's like, well, we've still got 4 months that they can reveal stuff.
yeah. But to talk about things they have revealed, little cool details before we move on to the main discussion is the Super Mario Odyssey level. You know, it's a good thing you changed the music because that theme is going to get annoying as hell eventually.
Very.
Yeah, and we've got the favorite little. There's a few other cool little things like Nintendo 64 levels look classic as hell. Keep the pixels in, make it look so nostalgic. And they've announced 103 levels, which is a shitload, or over 300 if you want the tournament versions, which I'm a big fan of. Getting rid of the crap.
How does that work, though? If a tournament version is just like the basic version of a level, wouldn't it be 206?
I'm not doing the math. I'm just doing what they said because there's 2 versions. There's an Omega version, which is flat, and one with platforms. So 103 levels times whatever.
309?
900 tracks, which is a shit ton of music.
Goddamn ridiculous. Yeah, I like that. Like, I'm just like, the most awkward thing ever is to have your Switch as a head, like an MP3 player. It's just like, unless you have like a handbag, like was showed in the video, it's like, well, I don't know how practical it is to have that thing in your pocket. Like the
You don't have your man bag with you every day? What is this?
Yeah, and another favourite thing, levels can change mid-game, swaps between 2 levels, which, disappointing it couldn't do more than that, but it is what it is, I guess.
2 is better than 1.
Yeah, and the frame rate tanks when you do it.
So, the one thing with the music that I imagine will eventually happen is that the playlist will go onto Spotify, so you won't have to carry a big Switch around everywhere.
That's
it's
actually
a lot of music. Yeah.
It's a big playlist. That's really cool. And the one cool thing that is they're adding to the gameplay is that there's a different mode called Squad Strike, which to me sounds like a Fighters or Marvel vs. Capcom style thing. Did you get that vibe, Russell?
I'm not sure if it's that. Like, if it's like you have swap out in combat. Yeah, I think it's the idea is you pre-build a team for matches. So like you're playing as Fox and then you're playing as Kirby. So you've already designed it from the get-go. I don't think it's you have all 5 of those in a match. I don't think it's that. I don't think.
I took it as more of it's like a Pokemon battle. You get to switch out between characters, and then once they get KO'd,
yeah, you swap characters.
I don't think it was clear enough. I wasn't sure if it's that, but I have a feeling it's not. I think it's just you go from match to match with the characters you have pre-selected.
Damn.
The mode that I'm really excited for, though, is
the one where basically you pick your character and then they erase them, so you can't beat them again in the next match.
So like the League of Legends style thing. So kind of you build down and down until you're at the last like who's left, which will be like the battle of the worst characters, because everyone will go through all the good ones and So Smash Bros Ultimate releases on the 7th of December. You know, got one more direct that's going to announce story mode.
Did they say only one more direct, or you just?
They didn't say one. We know there's one, so I'm going off the information I have, which there is one. So
yeah, there's at least one.
We're back in a moment to talk about some Castlevania, Symphony of the Night. Welcome back to the Gaming Booth podcast. Now we're moving on to a big discussion about a game that, you know, is one of the great games in gaming, because it's a game called Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which I mentioned before we got here, but, you know, in terms of a game that holds up, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, that game holds up, and I kind of want to go through, like, why do we think it holds up, where other games in this space, like the previous Castlevanias, might not?
It connects so much into what could almost be considered the biggest spoiler in the series, and that's for those who want to bail out now, But for those who aren't aware of like the worst kept secret in the world, Castlevania is basically 2 games in one, in the sense of halfway through it, you can end the game there, you can finish it, or you can do the secret option of to free Richter of his like possession.
Richter Belmont.
Yeah, Richter Belmont, and flip the entire castle upside down, and then ultimately take Dracula on.
Yeah, go to the real end boss.
It's basically doubling the entire length of the game and good game design by building an entire map that serves as upside down.
That's the
like,
thing that blows your mind away. It's just like, they built this whole game knowing at some point this is going to be upside down and it's going to work. How do you pay attention to all the design going into that to work out like, alright, this castle has to do both?
Yeah, there is definitely some spots you're like, oh, you can spot it early. You're like, hold on a minute. Like, this structure up the top is very weird how it goes into itself, almost like steps or something. Like, hold on, what's going on here? It's a bit odd. But then, of course, you go, it all makes sense once you get the secret swap.
It's really clever, and I think the main reason it holds up is, like, how it plays. There's not a part of it where it plays, like, worse than a game of this era, because, like, we're getting indie games that, for the most part, want what Castlevania did, and what Castlevania did was you could walk backwards through the castle faster than moving forwards. That's another main reason, but it's like, in terms of how that game held up and all like the abilities and stuff, it like holds up because of how solid that gameplay is.
Yeah, and like how it combines together with like as you build upon it and you get different weapons.
And
the spells and all the kind of aspect, while at the same time having such an awesome visual design to it, where Alucard's got his like floating kind of effect as he backdashes or traverses. Like it always looks cool. And something that even I noticed in the Smash Direct when they show the assist trophy, when he backs, it does the hover effect, like the shading thing. Yeah, it does it.
I hadn't played Castlevania Symphony of the Night before last year, and for me to play it in 2017 and to go, yep, this game is awesome. Yeah, that doesn't happen a whole lot. There's a testament to how good that game design was, and you could say it's timeless.
I said, and the fact that you have played so many other games that are basically, derivatives probably a bit harsher word, but clearly inspired by Symphony of the Night.
Definitely inspired by.
And it still holds up. You go, oh, this game's still good. It kind of reminds me of like Link to the Past. You know, it's just like one of those classics where it's like so many games have copied it, but you return and it's still like, this holds up so well still.
I think it's partly due to the gameplay and partly due to that kind of era of graphics that kind of upscaled. I mean, Symphony of the Night was in an era past that where these games were on the out because 3D was in.
It's funny, like, when you go back to PS1 and you go, like, what was the best looking game? And you probably go, like, it's probably Symphony of the Night, because PS1's graphics haven't aged well. Like, that awkward 3D phase that everything went through, it just doesn't look nearly as good. Same with Nintendo 64. It's just, 3D has a problem with age, where 2D just looks so good, and Symphony of the Night had the art style that I recall being controversial at the time, where it's like, oh, it's 2D sprites, I want 3D stuff now.
And now these days it's just like, I'm so glad there wasn't 3D, because we're seeing 2.5 dB the thing that's popular for these games, like Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. You know, that looks worse than Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, it's just the 3D style, like I think Mighty Number 9 too, when they're mimicking Mega Man, where it's like, it just doesn't, something about it just isn't as good. It's like, it's the lack of maybe expressionism, or maybe the fact that you know it's easier. It's easier to make a 3D model and just, there it is, as opposed to hand drawing every aspect into a sprite, as like a full-on animated sprite that just looks so cool.
Talk about expensive. The cost of that like really shows through, like, this game's a good looking game, and like,
I said the start is like the other like massive key aspect of it, where it's like you start the game and you're immediately going, wait, what's going on? This is like almost the start of like the God of War concept, where you start the game on such a high level. Like, I'm investing like a ridiculous boss at the beginning of this game. Like, what's happening right now? Fully powered.
And of course, you're not going to keep that, so death takes your power away. And, you know, I think kind of show like, this is the peak of Alucard. You could be this. When you get further in the game, you'll maybe be like this again.
And as Richter Belmont, you play as him at the start, face off against Dracula in his castle, defeat him. And that's kind of how it begins. And then it's like, oh, Dracula's castle is mysteriously returned. And then Alucard shows up and he goes, oh, I gotta stop my dad or whatever. Like, it's the mystery of it, setting just context for the overall story, but not just, heaps of dialogue, heaps of, like, we need to really emphasize the story, because, yeah, it was at the time where, like, voice acting was horrible. Like,
what is a man?
it's iconic, so iconic, that you could meme the heck out of that line, what is a man but a miserable pile of secrets? It's delivered so over the top.
I love it.
It just adds the charm. It adds to the charm of the game. We just go, you know what? I don't mind it. It's not greatly. It's just pretty poorly delivered, but it's fun.
We're trying ahead of the time and stuff. I think when talking about Symphony of the Night, you have to kind of talk about the game's difficulty, because the way it ramps up, at the start it's hard, but by the time Alucard gets some of his strength back, the game's difficulty really tones back. And I think something that it and Dark Souls later took is that the bosses are the challenge. Like, the world is like the adventure.
And that's very true. Like, yeah, the enemies aren't particularly challenging, but even then, it's like, it's that secret aspect of the Upside Down Castle where it's like, if you just win the main story, you might go, you know what, wasn't very hard a game, and I never really felt like the powers I was getting paid off. But if you do find that secret, which in itself was like, could be very surprising, because there's no guarantee that you get the glasses that allow you to see, that orb, and you go, well, what's this orb? To destroy it. So if you don't have it, like, you go, oh, that game is good, but I wonder why it has pretty much the biggest impact on, like, in that genre, where it's like everyone always talks about this game, and it's like, oh, that's why, because you become really strong, do the flip, and now you're versing incredibly tough bosses compared to what you were originally facing.
Yeah, Dracula is a toughie, but with all this said, like, Castlevania Symphony of the Night holds up because it's a great game, and because of the art style. Like, if this was 3D, this wouldn't hold up. You'd end up with a Castlevania 64 or something.
Yeah, true. And the design of the enemies, like, it's filled with, like, minotaurs and, medusas.
Yeah,
and,
like, undead things, reapers, all this cool stuff.
All this kind of cult, not following, but, like, things that are very recognizable, regardless of, like, pretty much everyone has seen this in some form. And the music is very atmospheric. It very much matches the tone of the game and makes you feel cool as you kind of explore. I mean, Castlevania games have always had that, though. The music always has that, like, that beat and vibe to it, where you're always like, I don't feel badass in this game.
All of it combined, you make Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and it's one of the best games ever made. Like, we can say that easily because it is. Like, that's a fact. And yeah, so
it's just a game that encompasses so much cool ideas and design of discoveries, where you're finding things, and then you go, oh, I've got the mist now, I can travel through the bars, I can fly around and everything. It's got the progression that you want. You always feel like you're getting strong. You always feel like you're being rewarded for what you're doing, and your sense of discovery. And I said, it just pays off in the end, and it's just a wonderful experience.
Your words are as empty as your soul. Mankind ill needs a savior such as you.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets.
Alright, so that's basically the Game Booth Podcast episode 6 wrapped up. Jordan has vanished into thin air. We don't know where he went, but, don't need him to do an outro. And thank you, Russell, for joining me on this one.
No problem, Mitchell.
If you're interested in any other things we've got, maybe check out Optional Extra on YouTube. If you're already on YouTube, maybe stick around and hit that subscribe button and that like button, as they all say, because apparently YouTube's algorithm likes it when you do that, and we'd like it to work in our favor, because our shit's not getting stolen by IGN, so we can't grow that fast.
Just get the publication to steal it, and rewarded that way.
Yeah, it's just like, don't have Patreon, can't plug that. You can find the podcast on all podcasting services like SoundCloud, iTunes, anything but Spotify, because Spotify says no. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye. That's a nice horse.